Hi folks, I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to look at layout design using InDesign. So I'm going to start by showing you a few architectural presentations to introduce you to some good design and some things to think about while you're designing. So when you look at this presentation, notice the type is very small. That indicates to me that this presentation would have been quite large, probably in a conference room, and you would be able to see the type if you were in this space. But what I want to point out is that the top border at the top with the title and this image at the bottom, I'm assuming that that's where your eye went first. And these are two things that the designer really wanted to focus on, wanted to get you, the viewer, excited about this project. So there's use of color, and that color in the top has been used further down in the design. You can see going vertically down the middle, there are those little colored icons in there, and they're bringing your eye to different sections. And then over to the left in horizontal bands, you can see some of the details. And then over to the right, they've got a stacked image there showing you different levels of the construction. So this is a nice sample. Again, this is something that would be bigger in a conference room, but with most projects, there's something that people can really hold on to and that you leave behind so that they can go through it on their own. So you do this nice, lovely presentation that's big and everyone's together, but then your client is going to have to really dig through and want to understand everything about the project. So this is the piece that we're going to be designing. We're going to be designing something that is smaller, and it's something that could be a digital piece that you send to people, but very often people like still something printed so that they can write on it and take notes and share that way. So that's what we're going to work on. But before then, I'm going to continue showing you some more nice layouts here. So again, a similar format where we've got the big bang, the show off piece at the bottom, and then the title and a little blurb at the upper left corner. And then on the right, we've got extruded portions of this project. And notice that it's more free form in the space, which is really mimicking the design of the project. You can see it's got this movement in the whole layout. So layout of the building, and so the layout of the presentation is imitating that. It's giving it it's putting an emphasis on it to really get the feel of what the intent of the designers is. So this one feels different. The layout, the way it's more three vertical bands in a sense, is different, but also the whole feel of it, because if we look at the building on the lower left, it looks like a modern building with a very old world style to it as well. So it may be a new building placed in an old city. Not totally sure. I found these on the internet. But over on the right side, we see these three images that are stacked, and they're in round circles. So that's playing off of the softness of the curves in the architecture. And it's highlighting some of the qualities of the building. We've got people interacting in those pictures and showing pictures of some green that's been added into the architecture. So these are little pieces that the designers want to focus on and highlight. And then in the middle, we've got the building and showing the size of people in there, and it's got this the proportions look very lovely, and there's this, it looks like love to be in this building. It sounds really lovely. But then over on the left side, in the blue clouds, you see these drawings that are in white line. They're less prominent, and also it looks like there's a map of where this building is located in the city. So these are less prominent, but they're backup information that somebody might want. So they're really, the information is moving around the page, but your eye should be going to the areas that they're trying to highlight and things that they think are important about their project, and being really thoughtful about how they're shaping it, and the use of color and shape and space and all of these elements. Looking at this one, it feels more like a graphic novel. It's got this very flat quality to it. It looks modern. It looks like it's got a Asian quality to it. Part of it might be that monkey with, it looks like persimmons. And you know, the gridded feel to it may also add to that. And then we've got different language on the type, which I'm not sure what language that is. But what I do notice is the type is put in white boxes very often. Again, playing off of this boxy sort of Gothic novel feeling to it. So my sense is that they're really trying to set a stage and tell a story, because the monkey is not part of the architecture, but he's giving a personality to this project. The palette is very pastel, but in a muted, soft, sophisticated way. It's also interesting, actually, noticing now that they've got the binder clips hanging down, showing the way this is being presented. So that's something that's for the future to think about, how you present things. Noticing this one is doing it in a similar way too. So this one feels very different. It feels tropical. We've got that palm tree in there. It's interesting to me that the materials have been put in these sphere shapes, which I really like. In the 3D version, not 3D, that's not the right word. I guess extrusion. I'm forgetting what the word is. The isometric view on the left side, looking down on that, it's got this curve on it. And it's interesting because the building itself has this very blocky feel to it. And so they're sort of breaking that with these curved shapes. So if you do have something that's very blocky or something that's very curved, you can play off of that. But sometimes it's nice to have a little contrast that actually balances it out, but may even bring more attention to the boxiness of your structure, because it's creating this contrast to it. So looking at this one, I think this design looks really sophisticated. It's, again, it's got sort of this old world textural quality to it, you know, like the paper is disintegrated, the quality of the image, but yet the layout is very sophisticated and very modern in the way it's been gridded and the centered quality of it. I like the little drawings on the left, again, that are white, that are sort of showing the layered design and, you know, the intent of this very square structure, but it's in these stacked images here. The typography, I haven't been talking too much about the typography, but this typography feels very elegant. It's a chiseled feeling to it. It may be the font Trojan, if you want to look at that. Sorry, Trajan. So, and then it's got this ethereal feel to it too, playing with opacity, with the light coming through in this column of light in a couple of those rooms. So there's different qualities being played with in Photoshop in creating these images, but also then this very modern stacked look. So I want to focus for a moment on the drawings at the bottom and how there's this white consistent space between all of them. So this is what I've been talking about for the past several weeks, about creating this grid and having a consistent gutter space between your images. It just, you know, you probably didn't really necessarily notice it. You just noticed that grid and the cleanliness of it. And so using this grid, it really just, it makes you focus on the imagery. So if you don't follow a grid, it can end up creating sort of clutter and chaos in your drawing. So just, you might have a resistance to it and wanting to be more fluid with your design, but in some ways it just makes the interior design, the projects that you're trying to highlight, that if the layout of the design of your presentation is more clean and simple, then your three-dimensional design can stand out more, which is really your intention. So looking at this space, the image at the bottom really isn't in some ways telling us much about the design of the space. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's showing us this perforated ceiling with the light coming through. And what I want to highlight is that this is really showing us this swimming and the candles and this lovely light coming through. It feels very spa-like, but at the same time, the imagery, the trees are all bare. It's this winter place here, and the colors that are used are very cool. So there's this real tempo, this mood that's being created as this sort of warm, steamy oasis in the middle of a winter landscape. It's very horizontal, the way the layout is. I mean, it's horizontal instead of vertical, and you're going to be working horizontally. Unless you really have if you want to work vertically, talk to me about it. You know, if you really have a reason to do that, then sure, I'm willing to talk to you about it. But that horizontality, it's really showing this sort of village. It's very, the structures look like they're all one story, and that it's this horizontal, flat landscape that all of these buildings are stacked in. And so over on the right, our little details are stacked horizontally, bands as well. So again, playing off of the layout itself is reinforcing the idea of the space. This one is very gridded too, focusing, if you will, on those spaces in between, the white gutter in between all of these. It's very nice and consistent. The grouping on the left, the structure of the title and then the paragraphs and then 2 more pictures, nice and neat. The images at the bottom using horizontal lines to keep our eyes moving in a horizontal way. And then over on the right, they've added these curves which contrast this structure in the building, because we do see there's curves in that center archway in the middle of that main image, and then there's spheres in the ceiling that are allowing light to come through. So there is this break in the geometry of the space. Again, very moody too. So here is an outline of your final assignment, but please read in Brightspace the actual details, because I do change it from semester to semester without changing the video. So look in Brightspace for the actual description of what you're going to do. But basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating spreads of your layout. So you're going to be using a format that's 11 by 17, and this is used very often because it's a standard size that can be printed. So you can leave somebody that's printed, but also you can take these same images and you can give somebody a digital version of it. So what you want to do, we're going to be designing this as something that is printed 2-sided and would have a seam in the middle. You know, if you take multiple pages and you bind them on the left and you open them up and it's 2-sided and there's that seam in the middle where you've bound them. So that's what this layout is here. So on the left, we've got the title, the cover page, and on the right, we've got the back page. So I've made them smaller here, but basically you've got six pages that are 11 by 17 that you're creating spreads. And so I'm highlighting these spreads in here. So pages 2 and 3 are on the top next to each other, and we've got a place to discover. And I want you to look at the way this student has really highlighted the final design structure. And so that is following what I've just been talking about with those professional pieces, that final design that you're really highlighting and focusing on has center stage. It's really nice and big, and they have different views on the right and left side of it, which is nice. And then the left layout has supporting materials showing different aspects of the project. And so year to year, your interior design projects will change to some degree. So I'm just showing different layouts, but you will be using the projects that you will have completed in your interior classes until this point, okay? So that's what you're going to be using. And on the second spread, you can see that they've added some furniture and other things in there, so you can pull things from other resources, materials and such, to highlight and show how your space would be used. So those are things to be considered. So now I want to talk about the design that the student has done in here, where their piece is very triangular, and so they have created this overarching design aesthetic that's using that triangular shape with their the blue, green, and brown shapes that they've got in there, these trapezoid shapes. So this feels a little heavy-handed to me when I look at their orange structure with the triangles. It's really nice, but it's got this airy feel to it. And this student also got really hung up in creating these shapes, and they don't actually hold the type in that well, and they fight with what's going on the page. So I think the student did a really nice job, and I'm just trying to have you have a critical eye of your own work and see where you can improve things. But again, it's really well organized. I can see the information. It's created in columns and rows that make it just easy for me to focus on the details of the interior design project and not be focused on or not be distracted by layouts that are too much going on. So this student here, again, this student has done a nice job of really having the best angle of your model center stage there with supporting images. And you can really use editing in here. Use your best images or your best design pieces. I know that you've done numerous different views and sketches and all of that, but be a good editor. I know it's really hard because you spend a lot of time working on these projects, but really focus on the strength of your best views of everything. So, and then when you do presentations, when you meet with somebody, depending on whether you're presenting your work to a future employer that's going to want to see how much background research and all that work that you do, you can always bring these other extra pieces as backup information in an interview. But you also want to know how to support your work and show it off in the best way, because that's what you'd be doing for a client. So if your client is really the end user of your design piece, think of them. They're not going to want to see endless detailed views and analytical pieces. They want to see that aha moment. So you've got two different clients. You've got the client who is a interior designer who you're going to be looking for a job, but also I want you to know how to design for a client who's just a person who's potentially hiring you for design services. So there's a little bit of a difference in there. So this student really has a lovely touch with their design elements. The colors are really sensitive. The play with these rounded and rectangular shapes mixed together. And that pattern down at the bottom at the VAT and this image at the top on their cover with these nice curves. They're really using supporting material and creating a nice aesthetic for their project. It may be getting in the way a little bit because one thing I notice in their work, I'm not seeing a beautiful focal image. I'm seeing all these colors and shapes. So you do want to strike a balance with that. Also, their typography is really nice. This type that they're using for their title, it feels like the aesthetic of their design work, but yet the smaller type that they've got on their page, they kept it a pretty simple font. So you can find a really fun font that's great for the titles, but you want to have a nice clean font that's legible for reading. So this student did a nice job, like the other ones, of showing the best view of your project larger, and then they've got supporting pieces. This one may have a few too many of them. I'm seeing a lot of the same thing, so you might want to switch this up to, some of the earlier drawings and sketches and all that are still really valid. And then the bottom piece is taking it to the next part of your project and adding in furniture and color and that sort of thing. And so again, when you are working on this project, you may or may not have as much done for your interior design project. So I am inviting you to use found resources for furniture and materials and all of those things, that something that supports your design without confusing people to not know exactly what is your design, and that's clear what you have designed and what you're using to supplement. So this one's nice, showing a variety of the different types of studies that were done early on. There may be a few too many, but it's a nice balance to what's going on the right. So I think that top spread is really nice. The cover using this Angular black and white, I think it works pretty well because it does mimic what's in their model. The black and white does feel a little bit heavy, so strike that balance. Don't be afraid to use color. It's up to you. You really are driving your aesthetic, and there's a nice balance in this black and white image in the middle bottom here. I think using black and white with the little pops of that turquoise is a nice control aspect of the project, really helping the viewer focus in on what you want them to focus on. The student did a pretty nice job, but the columns with the text and those putting the columns of text in the title of the project, it's eating a lot of real estate up on the page. So is that how you want to use your page? So I feel it almost in some ways feels like it's taking up space because they didn't do that much work. And I don't want that to be the situation, because I'm sure the student did do a lot of work, but what we're seeing on the right, their images aren't as big and powerful, and there's not a lot of not as much in here. So you want to strike that balance too. And then this one, I want to focus for right now on this one. The student has a lot of text and it's moving around too much. So it's in the center, it's moving around. They've got these cool shapes that I think are nice. They are, I think they're reinforcing the theme. I think they are working for the most part. But again, it feels like the student isn't confident in their work and they're taking up space on the page that could have been used to really highlight and focus on their work. So again, you want to strike that balance. But the design of this text moving around, it's too much. It's making me focus on that text and not on the project. So you want the type to be minimal and you want it to be very quiet. It's just like a part of the gridded item. You don't want it jumping around and moving. You want to keep it very simple and structured in rows, just like what I'm looking at in the bottom center layout. They've got their images, their views are nice and stacked and orderly. So why is their type moving all over? Just keep it nice and quiet. Okay. I probably have too many in here, so I'm just going to show you some more so that you can flip through this, and I will also have samples in Brightspace for you to look at so you can look at it at your own rate and just flip through them. Here the student has played with this arch in the cover. I don't think the cover is really magical and lovely, but it's nice that it's highlighting the shapes that are used in this model. They did a really nice job on the bottom two spreads, I think, because there's a lot of stuff in there, but it seems clear. I go right to it. The use of purple is helping to move my eye around. The text that they're using for the introduction is nice and clean. Over in the upper left-hand corner where you read it or you don't read it, you can go easily back and forth. There's not too much of a cacophony of stuff all over the place. This student really has a design aesthetic, graphic design superimposed in here. It almost feels a bit too much. I want to see more of their interior design work. Student obviously loved graphic design, which I'm always enthusiastic about, and I like there's a lot of things that they did, but you don't want to let it get in the way because you are interior designers and you want to highlight your interior work. But there's a lot of nice things in here too, a lot of nice colors, and the shapes are fun. This student also is having a lot of fun with graphic design, and the color was very important to this person, so they put a lot of focus on that. I love the way the spiral staircase has been put in these circles, and even that extra shape, that's curved shape that's rounding around these shapes, which would be just taking another circle and layering a circle on top of a circle to get that shape. It's not a magical tool. You just create another circle and just move it over a little bit so you get that shape. So also just thinking of ways to use InDesign and the different programs to create shapes and layer materials. You have these tools already, and it's just a matter of figuring out what you want to do and how you can make that happen with the tools that you know. So I think this is a lot of nice student work to inspire you, and I am always available to you. Email me if you're struggling and want some guidance in how to whittle out your work and give you feedback on your in-process work, okay? So enjoy, have fun, and do great work.